Manager makes fun of young wheelchair user in store without knowing he was the chain owner's son. Tyler held tight to the wallet with the money he had saved over 3 months of allowances. Today was the special day he had so lovingly planned to buy the birthday present for his grandmother Dorothy, the woman who raised him since he was little and who always treated him like the most precious treasure in the world. The 8-year-old boy entered the department store alone, pushing the wheels of his chair with determination. He had seen the French perfume in the window that his grandmother always admired when they passed by, and now he finally had enough money to buy it. Richard, the store manager, was organizing some products when he noticed the boy's entrance. Immediately, his face twisted into an expression of disdain. He was a man in his 40s, always impeccably dressed, but with a heart that seemed to have hardened over the years working in retail. "Hey kid, what are you doing here alone?" Richard asked in a loud tone, causing several employees and customers to look in their direction. Tyler smiled timidly and replied politely, "Good morning, sir. I came to buy a present for my grandmother. Her birthday is tomorrow." Richard let out a sarcastic laugh that echoed through the store. "A present? Are you sure you didn't come here to ask for something? Because a kid who gets around like this..." And here he made a gesture imitating the motion of pushing a wheelchair. "Usually doesn't come here to buy anything, right?" Ashley, a new sales clerk of just 23, felt her stomach turn upon hearing her boss's words. She had started working at the store just 2 weeks ago and was still trying to understand the dynamics of the place. But this crossed any line of decency. Tyler felt his cheeks burn, but he took a deep breath, as his grandmother had always taught him to do when someone said something that hurt him. "Sir, I do have money. I saved for a long time to buy that perfume in the window for my grandma Dorothy." "Dorothy?" Richard laughed even louder. "What an old lady name, right, folks?" he said, looking at the employees nearby. "And let me guess, you live out there in the South Bronx and she sent you here to pretend you have money, is that it?" Some customers began to feel uncomfortable with the scene, but no one had the courage to intervene. Richard was known for his explosive personality, and nobody wanted trouble with him. "No, sir, my grandmother didn't send me to pretend anything. I really want to buy the perfume. Can I show you the money?" Tyler took his wallet and began to count the bills he had saved with so much effort. Richard looked at the money and his expression changed slightly, but not for the better. "Well, look at that. The disabled kid really has money," he said in a mocking tone. "But you know what, kid? That perfume isn't for just anyone. It's an imported product fancy for refined people. So it's not for people like you." Ashley couldn't stay quiet any longer. She approached with her heart pounding and said, "Mr. Richard, I'm sorry, but if the boy has the money and wants to buy the product, there's no problem at all. I can help him." Richard turned to her with cold eyes. "Ashley, you've been here 2 weeks. Don't try to teach me how to run my store. And if you keep sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, you can look for another job today." The young sales clerk shrank back, but continued to look at Tyler with compassion. The boy sensed the tension and didn't want anyone to get in trouble because of him. "It's okay, sir," said Tyler. "I just really wanted to buy the present. My grandmother always taught me to be polite and respect others. She says when we treat people well, we get good things in return." "How sweet," Richard made an ironic face. "But politeness doesn't pay the bills, kid. And another thing, are you sure this money isn't stolen? Because I'm going to have to check every single bill before I accept any purchase from you." Tyler felt his eyes well up, but he blinked several times to keep from crying in front of everyone. He had promised himself he would be strong on this special day. Mr. Walter, an employee who had worked at the store for over 15 years, was organizing some nearby shelves and had heard the entire conversation. The 62-year-old man had witnessed a lot of things in that store over the years, but he had never seen such cruelty towards a child. "Richard," said Mr. Walter, approaching, "the boy just wants to buy a gift. There's no need to complicate things." "Walter, you want to give your opinion too?" Richard was clearly irritated. "Don't you people understand that this store has a standard to maintain? We can't just let anyone come in here and make a scene." "But I'm not making a scene, sir," Tyler said quietly. "I just want to buy the perfume and leave." "Oh, really? Then tell me something. How does an 8-year-old boy get the money to buy a $300 perfume, huh? Do you have a job?" Richard was clearly provoking him. Or does your family do something wrong to get this money?" At that moment, Mrs. Gladys, a 70-year-old woman who was in the store buying some things for her home, could no longer stay silent. "Young man, for heaven's sake, he's just a child. What difference does it make where he's from? His money is worth the same as mine or yours." Richard turned to the woman with a look of utter contempt. "You weren't invited into this conversation, and I suggest you mind your own shopping. Otherwise, I'll have to ask security to escort you out." "What do you mean? I've been a customer of this store for over 10 years. Mrs. Gladys was outraged. "And I've been the manager for 5. I know our clientele well, and you clearly aren't part of it." Tyler realized people were arguing because of him and felt terrible. He didn't want anyone to be treated poorly, especially an elderly lady who had only tried to help him. "Please don't fight because of me," said Tyler. "I can come back another day, it's no problem." "No, it really is no problem," Richard confirmed sarcastically. "But let me give you some advice, kid. Next time you come to a store like this, bring your parents. A child shouldn't be wandering around alone, especially," he gestured towards the wheelchair, "in that condition." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Ashley felt she could no longer stay quiet, even if it meant risking her job. She discreetly pulled out her phone and started recording the conversation. She didn't quite know why she was doing it, but she felt she needed to document such an injustice. "Mr. Richard," she tried one more time, "I can help the boy. It won't disrupt the store's operations at all." "Ashley," Richard shouted, "I already told you you don't have enough experience to handle complex situations, and this case here," he pointed at Tyler, "is definitely complex." Tyler took a deep breath and decided to try one last time. "Sir, my grandmother has always shopped at this store. She says you are all very polite and helpful. She's going to be so happy when I tell her I managed to buy her gift here." "Your grandmother shops here?" Richard pretended to be interested. "What's her full name? I'll check the system to see if she's really a customer." "Dorothy Wilson Parker, sir." Richard went to the computer and typed in the name. To his surprise, he found an extensive purchase history. Dorothy was indeed a long-time customer and always paid on time. "Interesting," murmured Richard. "Your grandmother has really been shopping here for years, but that doesn't change anything. A child can't walk around a store alone, much less a child with a disability. That's company policy." "But sir, I'm not disabled." Tyler spoke with a wisdom surprising for his age. "I just use a wheelchair. My brain works fine. I do well in school. I help my grandmother at home. I just can't walk with my legs, but that doesn't make me different from the other boys." Richard was momentarily speechless. He didn't expect an 8-year-old boy to speak so clearly about his condition. Mr. Walter took advantage of the moment to step closer. "Richard, the boy is right. And besides, do you remember when this store opened? I was here from day one. The owner always talked about respecting every customer no matter what." "Walter, that was over 15 years ago," Richard replied impatiently. "Times have changed. Nowadays we have to be more practical, more efficient. We can't waste time with complicated situations." "But there's nothing complicated about selling perfume to a child who has the money," insisted the veteran employee. Mrs. Gladys, who had been listening to the whole conversation, stepped forward again. "Son, how much more do you need to buy your grandmother's perfume?" Tyler counted the money again. "I have $270, ma'am. The perfume costs $300. "I have the $30 you're missing," said the lady, taking the money from her purse. Richard immediately intervened. "Don't even think about it. I won't allow charity to happen here in my store. This is not a social services office." "Charity?" Mrs. Gladys was perplexed. "I'm just helping a child buy a gift for his grandmother. What's the problem with that?" "The problem is that you're turning my store into a mess." Richard was clearly losing his patience. "Walter, call security. I want these people removed from here right now." Tyler felt the situation was getting out of control. He didn't want people to be thrown out because of him. With tears in his eyes but maintaining his dignity, he said, "You don't need to call security, sir. I'll leave. Sorry for causing trouble." He began pushing his chair toward the exit, but stopped when he heard Ashley's voice. "Tyler, wait!" The young saleswoman ran to him and knelt down to be at eye level. "Don't leave like that. You didn't do anything wrong. You're a polite and brave boy, Richard shouted from afar. Ashley, return to your post immediately or consider yourself fired. The young woman looked at Tyler, then at Richard, and made a decision that would change the whole situation. You know what, Richard? I'd rather be fired than keep working in a place where a child is humiliated. She raised her phone and showed that she had recorded everything. And besides, I have it all recorded here. Every cruel word you said to this boy. Richard's face turned red with anger. You can't record without my permission. That's an invasion of privacy. Actually, I can, Ashley replied firmly. We're in a public environment, a commercial establishment. And when it comes to protecting a child from mistreatment, I have every right. Tyler looked at Ashley with admiration. He had never seen someone defend a person they barely knew so much. Thank you, Ashley, he said softly, but I don't want you to lose your job because of me. Don't worry, Tyler, she smiled. There are things more important than a job, and one of them is defending those in need. At that moment, Tyler's phone started to ring. It was his grandmother, worried about how long he was taking. Hello, Grandma? Tyler, my dear, are you all right? It's been over an hour since you left. I'm fine, Grandma. It's just taking a little while to buy your present. Richard, overhearing the conversation, had a nasty idea. He quickly approached and took the phone from the boy's hand. Hello, Mrs. Dorothy. This is Richard, manager of the North Star store. Your child is here causing a disturbance. I suggest you come pick him up immediately. On the other end of the line, Mrs. Dorothy was confused. A disturbance? My grandson never causes a disturbance. What's going on? Your grandson came here alone in a wheelchair trying to buy expensive things, bothering the other customers. This is no place for children with disabilities to be alone. Mrs. Dorothy felt her blood boil. Listen carefully, Mr. Richard. My grandson is nobody's problem. He is a polite, intelligent, and independent boy. And if anyone is disrespecting him, they'll have to explain themselves to me in person. Ma'am, it's not my fault if you don't teach the child boundaries. Mrs. Dorothy hung up the phone and immediately called someone else. Michael, it's Mom. I need you to come urgently to the downtown North Star store. They are mistreating your son. Richard handed the phone back to Tyler with a nasty smile. There, your grandmother now knows you've been misbehaving. Now we just wait for her to come get you. Tyler's eyes were full of tears, but he refused to cry. His grandmother always said he was strong and brave, and he wasn't going to disappoint her. Mr. Walter approached Tyler and whispered, Son, your grandmother isn't going to be mad at you. Anyone who meets you can see you're special. Thank you, Mr. Walter, Tyler replied softly. You are very kind. The veteran employee looked at Richard with total disapproval. Richard, in all my years working here, I've never seen such a lack of humanity. This store was built on respect and inclusion. Walter, you're getting old and sentimental. Richard dismissed him. Business is business. I can't waste time on situations that don't turn a profit. Situations that don't turn a profit. Mr. Walter was indignant. He came here with $270 to buy a $300 product. If someone just pitched in the missing $30, you'd make a sale. How is that not profitable? Richard realized he had contradicted himself, but didn't want to admit it. The issue isn't just the money, it's the principle. I can't set a precedent. Mrs. Gladys, who had been following the whole situation, shook her head. A precedent for what? For treating a child with respect? For accepting a customer with a disability? What kind of bad precedent would that be? Ma'am, from what I understand, his family has been notified, Richard said in a threatening tone. I suggest you wait outside. I'm not leaving here until I'm sure this boy is okay, Mrs. Gladys said, crossing her arms. I have grandchildren his age, and I know how I would feel if someone treated them like this. Tyler looked at all these people trying to defend him and felt a mix of gratitude and sadness. He didn't want anyone to get in trouble because of him. Please, everyone, he said loudly enough for all to hear, don't fight because of me. I can come back another day with my grandmother. It's okay. Ashley crouched down again beside his chair. Tyler, you don't understand yet, but what's happening here is not your fault. You're a wonderful child who just wanted to do something nice for your grandmother." "But maybe Mr. Richard is right," Tyler said quietly. "Maybe I'm too young to go around the city alone." "Tyler," Ashley said firmly, "you are not too young, you are not incapable, and you are not a problem. You are a brave and independent boy. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Richard was getting more and more irritated with the whole situation. He had imagined it would be quick, kick the boy out and continue his normal day. But now he had employees questioning his decisions, customers defending the child, and a saleswoman with a recording of everything. "Everyone, I'm only going to say this one last time," said Richard in an authoritarian tone. "Either you stop this commotion and mind your own business, or I will call security for everyone. This is a serious company, not a circus." At that moment, the store door opened, and Mrs. Dorothy entered. She was a 72-year-old lady with well-kept white hair, dressed simply but elegantly. Her eyes scanned the store until they found her grandson. "Tyler, my love," she approached quickly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Grandma," Tyler tried to smile. "Sorry for causing trouble." Mrs. Dorothy looked around and saw the expressions on people's faces. Ashley was still holding her phone. Mr. Walter looked outraged. Mrs. Gladys was clearly upset, and Richard had a look of superiority on his face. "Who is Mr. Richard?" asked Mrs. Dorothy, in a calm but firm voice. "That's me," Richard approached. "You must be the boy's grandmother. I need to speak with you about his inappropriate behavior here in the store." Mrs. Dorothy looked the man in the eyes and spoke slowly. "Inappropriate behavior? My grandson came here to buy a birthday present for me, with money he saved from 3 months of allowance. What part of that is inappropriate?" "Ma'am, that's not the issue," Richard tried to explain. "It's that a child can't walk around a store alone, especially a child." He gestured toward the wheelchair. "In his condition." Mrs. Dorothy took a step forward. "In his condition? And what condition is that, Mr. Richard?" "Well, you know, he's disabled, right? He can't be out on his own." "My grandson is not disabled." Mrs. Dorothy spoke with great dignity. "He is a child who uses a wheelchair. But his brain, his heart, and his character work perfectly, perhaps even better than many adults I know." Richard began to feel uncomfortable. There was something about the woman's posture that made him uneasy. "Regardless," he insisted, "store policy is that children must be accompanied." "How funny," Mrs. Dorothy smiled slightly. "I've been shopping at this store for 15 years and never knew about this policy. In fact, I've always brought my grandson here with me since he was little, and the employees have always treated him with great affection." Mr. Walter approached. "Mrs. Dorothy, it's so good to see you. It's been a while since you've been here." "Walter," Mrs. Dorothy smiled sincerely. "How are you? Do you still remember when I used to bring little Tyler here?" "Of course I remember. He was always a polite and smart boy. Today was no different." Richard interrupted the conversation. "Walter, get back to your work. And ma'am, if you don't mind, I'd like to wrap this up quickly. We have other customers to attend to." Mrs. Dorothy looked around the store. There were few customers, and they were all clearly interested in what was happening. "Mr. Richard," she said, "I want to understand one thing. My grandson came here politely with money to buy a product that is for sale. Why did this turn into a problematic situation? Because he came alone, in a wheelchair, caused a commotion." "Commotion?" Ashley stepped forward. "Mrs. Dorothy, I'm Ashley. I work here." "Tyler didn't cause any commotion. He was extremely polite the entire time. The one who caused all this confusion was Mr. Richard." Richard looked at Ashley angrily. "You don't work here anymore, remember? You're fired." "That's right," Ashley agreed. "And you know why? Because I recorded everything you said to this boy. Every cruel joke, every contemptuous gesture, every humiliating word." Mrs. Dorothy looked at Ashley with interest. "You recorded it?" "Yes, ma'am. I couldn't just stand by and watch a child be treated like that." "May I see the recording?" Richard tried to intervene. "She can't show that without my authorization." "Actually, I can," Ashley replied. and I will show it to anyone who wants to see how this store treats children." Mrs. Dorothy took Ashley's phone and began to watch the recordings. Her face grew more and more serious. Tyler, seeing his grandmother's expression, felt guilty. "Grandma, I'm sorry for causing all this trouble. I just wanted to buy your gift." Mrs. Dorothy handed the phone back to Ashley and knelt beside her grandson. "Tyler, my love, you didn't cause any trouble. You were perfect, polite, respectful, brave. I couldn't be prouder of you." She kissed the boy's forehead and stood up, facing Richard. "Mr. Richard, in all my life, I have never seen such a lack of humanity. How can an adult treat a child this way?" "Mom, I was just following store protocols." "What protocols are those?" Mrs. Dorothy was clearly controlling her anger. "Protocols for humiliating children. Protocols for discriminating against people with disabilities. Protocols for expelling customers who want to make a purchase." Richard began to sweat. There was something about this confrontation that was making him very nervous. "Ma'am, it's not entirely my fault. You just don't understand how modern retail works. We have to be practical, efficient." "Practical?" Mrs. Dorothy repeated. "What's practical about losing a sale? What's efficient about making a child cry?" Mrs. Gladys, who had been observing the whole conversation, approached. "Mrs. Dorothy, I tried to help your grandson by making up the money he was short to buy the perfume, but this man wouldn't allow it." "What do you mean he wouldn't allow it?" "He said he wouldn't accept charity in his store, that this isn't a welfare office." Mrs. Dorothy looked at Richard with total disbelief. "You prevented someone from helping a child buy a gift for his grandmother?" "I have to maintain the store's standards," Richard tried to justify himself. "I can't let it turn into a circus." "A circus?" Mrs. Dorothy was losing her patience. "The circus is what you created here today. You humiliated a child, offended customers, threatened employees." At that moment, the store door opened again, and Michael, Tyler's father, entered. He was a 38-year-old man, dressed simply, with a worried expression. "Tyler?" He ran to his son. "Are you okay?" "Hi, Dad," Tyler smiled, seeing his father. "I'm fine." Michael hugged his son and looked around, trying to understand the situation. "Mum, what happened here?" Mrs. Dorothy sighed. "Michael, your son came here to buy my birthday gift. He had almost all the necessary money, and this gentleman," she pointed to Richard, "decided to humiliate him in the worst way possible." Michael looked at Richard, who immediately assumed a defensive posture. "You must be the child's father. Look, it was nothing personal. It's just that we have rules here in the store." "Rules?" Michael repeated. "What rules are those?" "Children can't walk around the store alone, especially children with disabilities." Michael felt a pang in his chest. It was always difficult to hear someone call his son disabled in a derogatory tone. "Sir," he said, controlling his voice, "my son is not disabled. He is a normal child who uses a wheelchair. And from what I understand, he came here as a customer, with money, wanting to buy a product. Where is the problem?" Richard was getting more and more uncomfortable. First the grandmother, now the father. And everyone was questioning his actions with arguments he didn't know how to counter. "Sir, the problem is that this has turned into a circus. Your family has mobilized half the world, created a disturbance, bothered other customers." Mr. Walter couldn't stay quiet any longer. "Richard, stop lying. The only one who caused trouble was you. The boy was polite the whole time, and the people who stepped in were good-hearted folks who couldn't stand to see such injustice." Michael looked at Mr. Walter with gratitude. "Thank you, sir. May I know your name?" "Walter Simmons. I've worked here for 15 years. I've known Mrs. Dorothy since she started shopping here, and I've watched Tyler grow up since he was little. Thank you, Mr. Walter. You've always been very kind to our family." Richard was completely losing control of the situation. "Folks, I'm going to ask one more time to end this discussion. You are disrupting the store's operations." Michael looked around. The store was practically empty, with only 3 or 4 customers who were clearly more interested in the commotion than in shopping. "What operations, Mr. Richard?" he asked. "The store is empty, and from the comments I'm hearing from the customers who are here, they are more upset with your attitude than with our presence. Indeed, the few customers in the store began talking among themselves, clearly disapproving of the manager's behavior." A middle-aged lady approached. "Sir, I don't know this family, but what I saw here today was shameful. How can anyone treat a child like that?" An elderly gentleman paying for his purchases at the register also commented, "In 60 years of shopping in stores, I've never seen such rudeness from an employee." Richard realized he was losing the support even of the customers who had nothing to do with the situation. "Folks, you don't understand the full context." "We understand perfectly," said the middle-aged lady. "We saw a polite boy being humiliated by a heartless adult." Michael knelt down beside his son. "Tyler, tell Daddy exactly what happened when you got here." Tyler looked at Richard and then at his father. "Daddy, I arrived and politely said I wanted to buy the perfume for Grandma. I showed the money I had saved. Then Mr. Richard started saying that boys like me don't come here to buy anything, that they usually come to ask for things." Tyler's voice wavered a bit, but he continued. "He said that people like us shouldn't come into a fancy store like this, that the perfume wasn't for people like us." Michael felt his anger rise, but he controlled himself. He knew he needed to stay calm for his son. "And what else, Tyler?" "He asked me if I was sure the money wasn't stolen, and when Mrs. Gladys offered the $30 I was short, he said this wasn't a charity." Michael looked at Richard. "Is this true?" Richard tried to downplay it. "Look, maybe I was a bit harsh, but it's because situations like this are complicated." "Complicated?" Michael interrupted. "What's complicated about a child wanting to buy a gift for his grandmother? It's just, you need to understand, a disabled child alone in a store." "Stop using that word," Michael said louder. "My son is not disabled. He is a child who uses a wheelchair, but he is intelligent, independent, and polite. Perhaps more polite than many adults I know. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing." Ashley, who had been observing the whole discussion, approached Michael. "Sir, I recorded the entire conversation. If you want, I can show you exactly how your son was treated here." Michael looked at her. "Do you work here, miss?" "She used to work here," Richard interrupted. "She was fired for not following instructions." "Actually," Ashley smiled, "I was fired for defending a child, and I don't regret it one bit." Michael took Ashley's phone and started watching the recordings. His face grew more and more tense. Tyler, noticing his father's expression, grew worried. "Daddy, don't be mad. I don't want anyone to get in trouble because of me." Michael stopped watching the recording, handed the phone back to Ashley, and knelt down in front of his son. "Tyler, you are the bravest and kindest boy I know. Never, ever let anyone make you feel inferior. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Daddy." Michael stood up and faced Richard. "Mr. Richard, I want to ask you a question. How long have you worked at this store?" 5 years as manager," Richard answered, trying to regain his authority. "And in 5 years, how many times have you treated customers this way?" "I didn't treat anyone badly. I was just following protocols." "What protocols?" Michael insisted. "Where does it say that children with disabilities can't enter the store alone? Where does it say that you can question where a customer's money comes from? Where does it say that you can stop one person from helping another?" Richard began to stammer. It's internal policy. You people don't understand how retail works." "I understand perfectly well how retail works," Michael said with a dangerous calmness. "And I know very well that what you did here today is not part of any protocol." Dorothy approached her son. "Michael, I think we'd better leave. It's long past time we left this place." "No, Mother," Michael replied without taking his eyes off Richard. "We're not leaving yet. I want a few things to be made very clear here." He turned to Ashley. "Miss, you said you were fired for defending my son?" "That's right, but like I said, I don't regret it." "What is your full name?" "Ashley Turner Harris." Michael took a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. "Ashley, if you're looking for a job, call me on Monday. I'm sure I can find something for a person with your character." Richard looked at the business card and turned pale. On the card it read, "Michael Wilson, Chief Executive Officer, North Star Department Store Chain." "Impossible," Richard murmured. You are. I am what, Mr. Richard? Michael asked calmly. Richard began to tremble. You are the owner's son. Actually, Michael corrected, I am the current president of the chain. My father passed away 3 years ago. The silence that fell over the store was deafening. All the employees nearby stopped working. The few remaining customers were stunned. Richard felt as if the floor was disappearing beneath his feet. Mr. Michael, I didn't know. If I had known... If you had known what? Michael interrupted. If you had known my son is my son, would you have treated him differently? If you had known I own the company, would you have been polite? What about the other children, Mr. Richard? How do you treat the other children who don't have business owners for parents? Richard was completely speechless. All his arrogance had vanished. Mr. Michael, please, I can explain. Then explain, Michael crossed his arms. Explain to me why an employee of my company thought it was appropriate to humiliate an 8-year-old boy. Tyler tugged on his father's shirt. Daddy, you don't have to fight because of me. Michael bent down again. Tyler, this isn't just because of you. It's for all the other children who might go through this. It's for all the customers who are treated badly when no one important is watching. He stood up and looked at Richard. Mr. Richard, how many times have you acted like this when you thought no one important was watching? Mr. Michael, I swear I never... Don't swear, Michael interrupted him, because I'm sure that's not true. Walter approached hesitantly. Mr. Michael, sorry to interrupt, but can I say something? Of course, Walter. You can always talk to me. It's just that, well, it's not the first time I've seen Richard treat customers he considers inferior poorly. Older people, poorer people, people with some difficulty. He always changes completely when someone important shows up. Michael nodded. I can imagine. And why has no one ever told me this? Because he always threatens to fire anyone who complains about him. Until today, Ashley was the first person brave enough to stand up to him. Michael looked at Ashley with even more respect. Miss Ashley, you really have courage. It's not courage, Mr. Michael. It's indignation. I couldn't stay quiet any longer seeing such injustice. Richard tried once more to defend himself. Mr. Michael, please give me a chance to explain. I can change. I can improve. Mr. Richard, Michael said calmly, you've had 5 years to show what you're capable of. Today I found out exactly what you're capable of. Dorothy approached. Michael, let me say something to Mr. Richard. She faced the manager. Sir, I have been shopping at this store for 15 years. I've brought my grandson here since he was a baby. The employees have always treated him with affection, always made him feel welcome. Until today. She paused. Today, for the first time, my grandson left the house by himself to surprise me. He saved money for 3 months to buy a special gift for me. And he found you. Dorothy was clearly emotional. You made an 8-year-old boy feel small, inferior, rejected. You broke a little piece of his pure heart, and that, Mr. Richard, is unforgivable. Richard had tears in his eyes. Mrs. Dorothy, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize... You didn't realize, she repeated. What do you mean you didn't realize? How can an adult not realize they are hurting a child? Tyler, seeing the man was crying, felt sorry for him. Grandma, he's sorry, maybe we can forgive him. Dorothy looked at her grandson with infinite pride. Tyler, you have a heart bigger than the world. But some things aren't resolved just with forgiveness. There need to be consequences, so this doesn't happen to other children. Michael was observing his son's reaction. Even after everything he had been through, Tyler still showed compassion for the man who had humiliated him. Tyler, he called his son, would you like to buy the perfume for your grandmother? Can I, Dad? Of course you can. Michael turned to Richard. Mr. Richard, go get the perfume my son chose for his grandmother. Richard ran to the display case with trembling legs and brought the perfume. Here it is, Mr. Michael. It's not for me, Michael corrected. It's for my son. He is the customer. Richard crouched down next to Tyler. Tyler, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for everything I said. You are a very special boy. Tyler looked into the man's eyes and saw that he was truly sorry. It's okay, Mr. Richard. My grandmother always says that everyone deserves a second chance. Richard started crying even more. You are a much better person than I am, Tyler. That's not true, Tyler replied wisely. It's just that maybe you forgot how to be good. But you can remember again. Michael was impressed by his son's maturity. At 8 years old, Tyler showed more compassion and wisdom than many adults. Gladys, who had followed the entire conversation, approached. Tyler, can I now give you the rest of the money for your gift? Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. She gave him the $30 that were missing, and Tyler was finally able to buy his grandmother's perfume. There you go, Grandma. He handed the wrapped gift to Dorothy. Happy birthday. Dorothy hugged her grandson with tears in her eyes. Thank you, my love. This is the most special gift I have ever received in my life. Michael looked at Richard. Mr. Richard, you are relieved of your duties at the company, effective immediately. Richard lowered his head. I understand, Mr. Michael, and I accept the consequences of my actions. But, Michael continued, my son gave me an idea. Instead of simply firing you, I'm going to make a different proposal. Richard looked up hopefully. A proposal? You will spend the next 3 months working as a volunteer at institutions that serve people with disabilities. You will learn about inclusion, respect, and human dignity. You will discover that people like my son are so much more than their physical limitations. Michael paused. After these 3 months, if you truly demonstrate that you have changed, that you have learned, that you have grown as a human being, perhaps we can talk about a new opportunity in our company, not as a manager, but as an employee, starting from scratch. Richard was incredulous. You're giving me a second chance? It's not me who is giving it, Michael looked at Tyler. It's my son. It was his idea. Richard looked at Tyler with total admiration. Tyler, why are you being so kind to me after everything I did? Tyler thought for a little bit before answering. Because my grandmother always taught me that when someone is cruel to others, it's because something is hurting inside them. And maybe something is hurting inside you, sir. The simplicity and depth of Tyler's answer left everyone emotional. Richard bent down and asked, May I give you a hug, Tyler? Tyler nodded and Richard hugged him, crying, Thank you for teaching me a lesson I will never forget. Ashley, who was watching everything, commented, Tyler, you are amazing. At 8 years old, you are already wiser than most adults. Michael turned to her. Ashley, the job offer still stands. Our company needs people like you. How about starting as a customer service supervisor? Really? Ashley could hardly believe it. But I only had 2 weeks of experience. Technical experience can be learned, Michael replied. Character cannot. And you have shown you have more than enough character. Mr. Walter approached. Mr. Michael, may I suggest something? Of course, Mr. Walter. How about we create a training program about inclusion for all employees in the chain, so that this never happens again in any store? Excellent idea, Michael agreed. Can you be in charge of it? You have known the company for a long time and would know how to make an effective program. It would be an honor, Mr. Michael. Tyler tugged on his father's sleeve. Daddy, can I suggest something too? Of course, son. How about we put a small sign at the entrance of all the stores saying that everyone is welcome here, no matter how different they are? Michael smiled. Perfect. And do you know where we're going to put the first sign? Where, Daddy? Right here in this store, to always remember the lesson you taught us today. Dorothy was watching everything with immense pride. Tyler, you turned a sad day into a special day, not just for us, but for everyone who was here. It's true, agreed Gladys. Today I learned that sometimes the most important lessons come from the littlest people. Richard, who was listening to everything, approached once more. Tyler, I want to make you a promise. In the next 3 months I will learn everything I can about how to treat people with respect. And when I come back, if your father lets me come back, I will be a completely different employee. Tyler smiled. I believe in you, Mr. Richard. My grandmother always says that everyone has kindness in their heart. Sometimes it's just hidden. Michael looked at his watch. Well, I think it's time for us to go home. Mrs. Dorothy needs to rest for tomorrow's birthday. True, Dorothy agreed, and I have a beautiful French perfume to wear to the party. Ashley approached Tyler. Tyler, it was a pleasure to meet you. You taught me a lot today. Thank you for defending me, Ashley. You are very brave. On Monday we'll see each other again, she smiled. I'm going to work at your father's company. Walter also said goodbye. Tyler, keep being that special boy you are. The world needs more people like you. You are special too, Walter. Thank you for being on my side. As the family got ready to leave, Richard approached one last time. Mr. Michael, I want you to know that today was the most important day of my life, not because of the problems I had, but because of the lessons I learned. Michael looked at him. Richard, remember, this second chance isn't just for you. It's for all the people you will meet from now on. Don't waste it. I won't waste it, I promise. Tyler waved to Richard. Goodbye, Mr. Richard. I'll see you in 3 months. Goodbye, Tyler, and thank you for giving me the chance to be a better person. When the family finally left the store, the atmosphere was completely transformed. The employees were excitedly talking about the changes to come. The customers were commenting on the lesson they had witnessed, and Richard was sitting in a chair, reflecting on everything that had happened. Ashley approached him. Richard, you are lucky to have met a family like that. I know, he replied. I never imagined that an 8-year-old child could change my entire life. Sometimes the most important lessons come from where we least expect them, Ashley commented. The important thing is that you were open to learning. Richard looked at her. Ashley, I'm sorry for firing you. You did the right thing. Don't worry, she smiled. In the end, everything worked out for everyone. At the Wilson family's home, Tyler was telling his grandmother all the details of what had happened at the store. Grandma, Mr. Richard was being mean, but I think his heart was hurt. Dorothy hugged her grandson. Tyler, you are right. And do you know what makes me the proudest? What, Grandma? It's that even though you were treated badly, you didn't want revenge. You wanted to help. It's just that you always taught me that revenge leaves you with a heavy heart. And I want to keep my heart light. Michael, who was listening to the conversation, approached. Tyler, today you taught me several important things. What things, Dad? You taught me that real strength isn't about yelling or fighting. It's about having compassion even when we are hurt. You taught me that forgiving isn't about accepting the mistake, but about giving the person a chance to make things right. And you taught me that sometimes a child can be wiser than many adults. Tyler thought for a moment. Dad, do you think Mr. Richard will really be able to change? You know what I think, son? I think that anyone who meets you has a great chance of becoming better. Because you see the good in people, even when they can't see it in themselves. 3 months later, Richard returned to the store. He had spent all that time working in different institutions that served people with disabilities. He had learned about the daily difficulties these people faced, but also about their strength, courage, and joy for life. More importantly, he discovered that his own son, who lived with his ex-wife in another city, was beginning to show symptoms of a condition that could affect his mobility. For the first time, Richard understood in his own skin how devastating it would be to see someone discriminate against his son because of a physical limitation. When Michael went to evaluate whether Richard could return to the company, he didn't go alone. He took Tyler along. Hi, Mr. Richard. Tyler greeted him cheerfully. How were these 3 months? Richard knelt beside Tyler's chair. Tyler, these were the 3 most important months of my life. I met incredible people. I learned things I never imagined. And I discovered that I was completely wrong about everything. That's wonderful, Tyler smiled. You seem different, more happy. Richard laughed. You know what? I discovered that when we treat others well, we feel good too. Before I thought that by being tough, by being cruel, I was being strong, but actually I was being weak. Michael observed the conversation attentively. Richard, tell my son some of the things you learned. I learned that people with disabilities are not poor little things who need pity. They are normal people who have different challenges. I learned that inclusion is not a favor, it's a right. I learned that when we respect differences, Everyone becomes richer. Richard paused. But the most important thing I learned was something you taught me, Tyler. What was it? That kindness is stronger than cruelty. That forgiveness is more powerful than anger. That an 8-year-old boy can teach a 40-year-old man how to be a real human being. Tyler clapped his hands. That's so cool. Now you'll be able to help other people learn that too. Michael smiled. Richard, welcome back to the company. You'll start as a salesperson on the morning shift, right here in this store. Ashley, who is now the regional supervisor, will oversee your work. Thank you, Mr. Michael. I promise I won't let you down. The promise isn't for us, Michael corrected. It's for every customer who walks into this store. Especially for the children, the elderly, people with disabilities. For everyone who has ever felt rejected or belittled. Tyler tugged on Richard's sleeve. Mr. Richard, can I tell you a secret? Of course, Tyler. I was so happy when I found out you were coming back, because now I know that if some child like me comes here alone, they'll find someone who will treat them well. Richard felt his eyes well up. Tyler, do you really believe I've changed? I do believe it, because your eyes are different. Before they were hard, now they are kind. 6 months after Richard's return, the store had become a model of inclusion for the entire chain. The little sign suggested by Tyler was at the entrance. Everyone is welcome here, no matter how different they are. Richard had become the employee most beloved by the customers, especially by the children who felt special when he helped them. Ashley had implemented a training program that had already been adopted by all the stores in the chain. Mr. Walter had become the coordinator of the inclusion project, traveling to the branches to ensure all employees understood the importance of treating every customer well. And Tyler. Tyler continued to be the special boy he always was, but now he knew he had changed many people's lives with his wisdom and kindness. On the first anniversary of the store's transformation, as the episode became known, Michael organized a small party for all the employees. Tyler was there, along with Mrs. Dorothy. Richard approached him. Tyler, I want to thank you once again. You saved not only my job, but my soul. Tyler smiled. Mr. Richard, you saved yourself. I just helped you remember the good that was already inside you. Ashley, who now supervised several stores, joined the conversation. Tyler, you know your story has become an example for other employees, right? Whenever someone is unsure how to treat a customer, we ask, how would you treat Tyler? Really? Tyler was embarrassed. But I didn't do anything special. Yes, you did, said Mr. Walter, approaching. You showed that a child can indeed teach an adult, that kindness can indeed overcome meanness, that forgiveness can indeed transform hearts. Mrs. Dorothy, observing the entire scene, sighed contentedly. Tyler, my love, do you remember what happened a year ago when you came to buy my gift? I remember, Grandma. And if I asked you if you regret going through all of that, what would you say? Tyler thought for a moment. I don't regret it, Grandma, because in the end a lot of people ended up better off. Mr. Richard learned to be kind. Ashley got a better job. Mr. Walter became a coordinator. And I learned that sometimes we go through bad things so that we can make good things happen. Michael hugged his son. Tyler, you are my hero. Why, Dad? Because you taught me that being strong isn't about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. That being brave isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing even when you are afraid. That being wise isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing what really matters in life. Richard approached once more. Tyler, can I tell you something? Sure, Mr. Richard. My son is coming to visit me next week. He has a condition similar to yours, and for the first time in my life, I'm not worried about how people will treat him, because if he meets people like you in the world, I know everything will be all right. Tyler smiled. He will be fine, Mr. Richard, and you know why? Why? Because now he has a father who will teach him the same thing my grandmother taught me, that the most important thing isn't how we are on the outside, but how we are on the inside. And so a situation that had begun with humiliation and sadness turned into a lesson of love, forgiveness, and transformation. Tyler had proven that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness. The store continued to be a special place where everyone was welcome. Richard became one of the most respected employees in the chain. Ashley built a brilliant career based on the values she learned that day. And Mr. Walter got to see the company he loved become truly inclusive. But most important of all, Tyler continued to be the wise and kind boy he had always been, spreading love and teaching adults about the true meaning of humanity. End of story. Dear listeners, what a touching story, isn't it? Tyler taught us that true strength lies in compassion, not in cruelty. And what do you think about the boy's attitude? Could you forgive like he forgave? Leave your reflections on this beautiful life lesson in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.